Elsa Gate. The term used to identify a strange video trend that emerged in 2016. Video after video was posted to YouTube under the guise of children's content, featuring characters like Spider-Man of Marvel Comics and movies fame, or Elsa from Disney's Frozen. Featuring these and many more fictional characters, the videos on the surface appealed to children, and upon first glance would not be anything concerning. However, many of them included adult themes that were hardly appropriate for the young viewers watching them. After coverage from commentary channels and the media alike, YouTube enforced new guidelines to clamp down on the content, putting a stop to it for the time being. But many have noticed a resurgence in the content today, with many of the same tactics being employed by its creators. So what really is Elsa Gate? Why does this content exist? Who is behind it? And can anything reasonably be done to stop it? Today, I'll try to provide the answers. If you were on YouTube back in 2016, you probably remember how commentary channels eagerly searched for any bit of internet cringe to milk for content. That spring, they stumbled upon a new target: kids content. However, these weren't your typical children's videos. These were incredibly peculiar and unlike anything anyone had seen before. In the early days of YouTube, many videos unintentionally attracted a younger audience, even if they weren't specifically meant for children. Sketch comedy, animations, and Let's Plays were all extremely popular. However, these types of videos would naturally emerge as a hobby for their creators, and unexpectedly gain popularity rather than being cynical attempts to garner and profit off of a young fan base. But now it was 2016, the year of our Lord, and YouTube had changed since the late 2000s and early 2010s. It had evolved into a massive business rather than just some website to kill time on, and people recognized the potential to make money from it. One of the most lucrative new markets was YouTube Kids, which was launched just a year prior in 2015. It was a particularly tantalizing opportunity because there were very few established children's channels on the platform. At the inception of YouTube Kids, Ryan's Toy Reviews hadn't even come into existence yet. Aspiring content creators realized that by tailoring their content specifically to children rather than inadvertently appealing to them, they could tap into this market. Kids, especially toddlers, will watch almost anything as long as it's colorful and loud, and they'll often watch their favorite videos repeatedly. Advertisers also valued this niche. The content was clean, at least it was supposed to be, so no major brands would refuse to advertise on it. In fact, they would pay more to do so because they knew that kids would easily fall to their marketing tactics. If the prospective creators could market their videos as having educational value, they could gain the approval of parents as well, who might otherwise limit their children's screen time and therefore their time watching videos. Those who saw this opportunity were primarily living in second and third world countries looking to make a quick buck, although this fact would only become known later on. But with that fact in mind, it makes sense that without an initial budget to hire talented voice actors and create compelling character art, they needed a cheap way to break into the market. Not only that, they needed a way to compete with major corporations like Disney and established programs such as PBS, who already had intellectual property that children were familiar with. So, what better way to stand a chance than to essentially steal existing popular characters' identities and pretend to be them? A whole genre of cheap-looking live-action videos and animated content cropped up of superheroes and princesses acting out whatever plot lines the creators saw fit. These brand new channels would use these characters in their video titles and thumbnails with plenty of bright colors to at least come closer to the appeal of official programs. However, that's where the similarities between the content that started dominating YouTube Kids in 2016 and traditional television programming ended.
Look at the fucking views, people. Here's one from 1 month ago. 117 million views. Dude, what the fuck?
You had these sped up and bizarre videos of adults just acting out random and nonsensical scenarios with no dialogue and royalty-free music, but garnering an incredible amount of views in the process, such as on the channel Webs and Tiaras. There were clones following in their footsteps too, like Toy Monster, The Superhero's Life, and The Kids Club. This trend was getting enough views that not only did it attract the attention of regular YouTube, it was covered in The Guardian in June 2016. The latest YouTube craze is a channel where adults don Spider-Man and Elsa from Frozen outfits and ride giant ducks, grow Pinocchio noses, and lick enormous lollies. Webs and Tiara's first video was only published in March 2016, but the channel has already notched up 1.7 billion views. In May, it was the third most viewed YouTube channel in the world, based on stats from analytics company OpenSlate indicating Webs and Tiaras was watched 544.7 million times that month. However, if we look beyond the suspicious growth and the slightly unsettling nature of these videos to adult viewers, there wasn't much to criticize about them. They were mindless and strange, but hey, that's what kids' content often is, isn't it? The most significant accusation you could levy against these creators was that they might have been view-botting, considering how low the number of comments and likes were on these videos compared to the views. However, you could chalk that up to toddlers obviously not knowing how to like or comment and only knowing how to loop videos repeatedly. You could also point out that these videos' primary motivation was making quick cash. For example, among the many Webs and Tiaras clones, H3H3 Productions discovered Ethan and Mo Bradbury were one of them, former pranksters who had shifted from their failing channel to join this new trend. But that was where the discussion seemingly ended. However, in a matter of just half a year, the relatively harmless nature of this strange genre changed. Checking back into YouTube Kids in the fall of 2016 and winter of 2017, the content, for whatever reason, had gotten exponentially worse. It was no longer just poor quality, it was outright inappropriate. How this change happened, and at what exact moment, is anyone's guess, but it certainly started turning more heads within the community.
Now, I was surprised to find that there wasn't just one channel like this, there's actually quite a few. One of them's called Kids Toon TV, and this channel has such videos as Mickey Mouse Baby dead in gas explosion. And then we got a couple of other pregnant suicide ones. Why is that a thing?
When you watch a scene like this one here, you just can appreciate how actually bizarre it is. As we see Hulk declothing, derobing, little tit grabbing there, a lot of feeling happening there. Like here, they're playing with each other's nipples, now he's getting naked. Guys, how is this not gay?
However, this disturbing content proved to be incredibly lucrative. The Bradburys, whose channel was previously struggling to crack 1,000 views on each video, experienced a sudden surge in success. Teaming up with Kobe Person, another former prankster, they were racking up tens of millions of views each month and proudly displaying their brand new Bentleys in their videos. That's gotta be the strangest flex ever, showing off the luxury car you bought off traumatizing the next generation. It wasn't just limited to a couple of channels pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable though. Within a remarkably short span of time, an alarming number of content farms emerged, solely dedicated to churning out the most abhorrent and repulsive material imaginable. This Elsa and Spider-Man industrial complex made it so that, once you clicked on one of these videos, your entire recommended sidebar would be inundated with them, further amplifying the spread of this plague. Frozen Elsa and Joker in the bathroom, Elsa needs to pee, pregnant Spider-Girl toilet prank, and one where the title is in Arabic, but Spider-Man has Elsa tied up in the trunk of a car. There were even versions of these videos where they acted out some of the scenarios with real children.
In this video, a little girl is kidnapped while she sleeps by a so-called cave monster that is clearly just a man in a mask.
One channel called Anna Kids TV even reportedly did an actual injection of an antibiotic on a child in the same vein as the other injection videos, just real instead, with a little girl in question screaming and crying, which I obviously will not show. For better or for worse, anything is possible with art, so the animation channels were particularly insane. Elsa and Spider-Man eating feces from the toilet, one baby drinking another's urine, Spider-Man and a dominatrix, Mickey Mouse kidnapping Minnie, and who could forget Elsa's forced slavery, where she's simultaneously crying and pole dancing. There were these recurring themes that essentially consisted of every fetish or age-inappropriate thing conceivable. Pregnancy, going to the bathroom, consuming feces and urine, violence and gore, torture, kidnapping, strip clubs, hypnosis, slavery, inflation, vomiting, cannibalism, ball-busting, bondage. The list goes on. I mean, I feel like I'm reading that Soy Jack Party copy pasta. These themes were just spammed at random with no rhyme or reason, and it was all right there on YouTube Kids, readily accessible to toddlers. One less dark and more hilarious footnote was the Finger Family channel, which pumped out hours of repetitive nursery rhyme animations, sung horribly in what sounds like an Indian accent, featuring any and all characters from every franchise under the sun. They even included, famous historical figures, shall we say, for extra educational value. You know, like this guy. I don't know whether this is very historically accurate, though. Hey, maybe this guy knows something we don't. Who am I to say? I mean, if the man with the mustache had that cake, you know, who am I to argue? All this was enough to garner a bit more mainstream attention, other than PewDiePie reacting to the Finger Family videos.
Learning colors with... I didn't read the title.
Learning colors with farting PewDiePie what?
You wish you could dance like that. You wish you had those moves.
Like that. Oh God! Green toxic pooped farts.
You had the story being covered in The Verge and BBC. A pregnant Princess Elsa staggers up the stairs clutching her stomach. Disney's popular heroine pauses, and with a loud fart, poops out a stream of colored plastic balls that bounce down the stairwell. The video, posted to YouTube, has collected millions of views. And another video on the same channel, Joker gets into a serious makeout session with Rapunzel, which is odd, but less bizarre than the clip where Spider-Man impregnates the evil Queen Maleficent. The fourth most popular channel in the US in recent weeks, with over 100 million views, is dedicated to these homemade superhero soap operas. If you're not paying much attention, it might look like an ordinary video featuring Peppa Pig, the cheeky star of her own animated series. But soon after pressing play on this particular YouTube clip, the plot turns dark. A dentist with a huge syringe appears, Peppa's teeth get pulled out. Distressed crying can be heard on the soundtrack. Parent and journalist Laura June almost immediately noticed something was not quite right as her 3-year-old daughter was watching it. Peppa does a lot of screaming and crying, and the dentist is just a bit sadistic, and it's just way off of what a 3-year-old should watch. The content was bad enough at this point to where parents in Vietnam were complaining about one of the channels there, to which the channel responded by blocking Vietnamese viewers. However, its owner was later fined by Vietnamese authorities for the suggestive content. The Chinese government would also have to deal with the problem of these videos invading their country's media platforms and dispatch substantial resources to crack down on the Spider-Man and Elsa genre. All of this chaos and depravity ramped up going into the spring and summer of 2017, warranting a proper investigation and movement dedicated to getting to the bottom of it. The first attempt to coordinate and gather info took place on 4chan on the Paranormal board, which is where the first instance of the term ElsaGate appears on the internet, on May 31st, 2017. This whole thing needs a name we can use to refer back to help in searches and as a point of reference. Maybe ElsaGate or something. As anonymous users collected data and put together infographics, the investigation was spread to Twitter, where the ElsaGate hashtag gained traction, and in June, the ElsaGate subreddit was conceived, quickly garnering tens of thousands of members. The first bit of headway in the investigation was made by understanding that the videos were mostly foreign in origin. Russia, Vietnam, and India were all major exporters of this content, from the animations to the live action stuff. Another example emerged of pranksters going to the dark side of YouTube content creation. I mean, if pranks and social experiments aren't already dark enough. With the Viral Brothers, pranksters from the Czech Republic, one of which, Eric Meldik, started making children's content with his girlfriend on a channel called Superhero Fun Fun. Again, it showed people were hopping on this bandwagon just to make money. But still, no one knew why it was turning dark, other than the idea that the nursery rhyme videos, due to the sheer quantity and nonsensical nature of them, were being pumped out by some algorithm. There wasn't really an explanation for why the videos were turning out as bizarre as they were. Just because of how grotesque and morally appalling the content was, a lot of people tended towards the conspiracy angle. All of this might be an attempt by predators to familiarize children with sexuality and fetishes, thereby making them comfortable with it, so that if an adult preys on them, they're more likely to go along with it. And while we'll circle around to this thought much later in the video, it just seems like way too decentralized of a thing for all the creators of this content to be pedophiles. The kids seeing the videos the world over are not even the ones they can prey on, unless this was some kind of long-term 4D chess ploy by a huge Illuminati-esque organization looking to normalize pedophilia in the long run, which in this case I just don't see it. So is this all just clickbaiting children with horrifying things to exploit their morbid curiosity for money? Really? That's it? Well, yes, probably. If I was an individual or company with a strong knowledge of YouTube and ways to game it, how can I make the most money? Maybe I'm just smart, maybe I've developed a flawless keyword generator, maybe I've hired a large chunk of market researchers, maybe it's Maybelline. Either way, I have a surefire way to make money off YouTube, and I want to expand my market. I either A, sell the information to studios and content creators, B, sign on creators to be a part of my network, they get guaranteed clicks, I get a share of the profits, C, create a tool that generates animations based on keywords, outsource the creative tasks to small animation and graphic design studios. Personally, I think this whole ElsaGate thing is a combination of A, B, and C with different studios and curators involved. Why are the videos so screwed up? Most of the videos fall under the category of things kids often find mysterious, scary, or taboo, which if you look at more adult forms of mysterious, scary, or taboo content, you'll recognize that those things are exactly what people look for in clickbait content. In this case, it's wrapped up in a package catered towards children. Feces, urine, spiders, needles, sex, all things that are normally considered bad when you're a kid. This feeling of watching something that you're not supposed to watch is probably quite stimulating for kids, so they keep watching and the creators keep creating. It's more interesting than what's on TV because it's different, even if the kid doesn't know why it's different. Why kids videos? Children are easy targets for manipulation, and they're a cash cow for YouTube creators. They don't skip ads, which brings the creator a lot more revenue than skipping. They don't get bored of repetitive concepts. They can be easily hooked on almost any concept, and they just let YouTube play on autoplay autoplay continuously. This is the ideal situation for anyone with a strong knowledge of keywords and without a conscience. What's with the gibberish in the comments? Content on YouTube won't get recommendations unless it has high engagement on top of views and watch time. This is how YouTube detects whether or not a video's views are legitimate as opposed to acquired by bots. The kids bring in the views, but unfortunately they don't comment much. These gibberish comments are either bots or click farms designed to trick YouTube into thinking that this video is popular, engaging, and legitimate. Therefore, it should be recommended to viewers that are interested in the video like the one they just watched. Among the various theories, the least conspiratorial one suggested that individuals from second and third world countries without moral reservations were using taboo subjects as clickbait to generate easy money by luring children's curiosity. Although the content can be extremely repulsive, it has a captivating effect on young children, much like witnessing a fire or a car crash to an adult. Think back to when you yourself were a young child on the internet. There were probably instances where you clicked on scary or off-putting links, or videos you knew were inappropriate out of sheer curiosity. Despite being the least sinister theory, it still carries a deeply unsettling and dark nature. The people responsible for the worst Elsagate content are either seriously depraved individuals or people who are desperate for money and just looking to make it any way they can. The other alternative is that some of the creators themselves have the fetishes they feature in their videos, so not only do they not mind making the videos, they actively enjoy and relish in putting this content out to kids. The last part certainly seems like it might be part of it in certain cases, but why else escalate from simple sexualized content, which would definitely be enough to clickbait curious kids, into super weird and obscure fetishes? As the Elsagate scandal escalated and horrible videos kept coming down the pipe, it was inevitable that sooner or later it would turn into a big enough controversy for something to be done by YouTube themselves. Summer 2017 saw YouTube changing their monetization policies, including forbidding channels that depicted kids' characters in inappropriate situations from being monetized. Presumably, the reason people were doing this was for money, so if you removed that incentive, it would put an end to the issue. But come to find out, in fall 2017, while this policy did exist, it wasn't being enforced very well. On November 4th, the New York Times published an article that would start a domino effect, culminating in a huge outcry during the holiday season. They had gotten in touch with some parents whose small children had encountered these videos on YouTube Kids and naturally were mortified. It was a typical night in Stacey Burns' house outside Fort Wayne, Indiana. She was cooking dinner while her 3-year-old son, Isaac, watched videos on the YouTube Kids app on an iPad. Suddenly, he cried out, "Mommy, the monster scares me." When Miss Burns walked over, Isaac was watching a video featuring crude renderings of the characters from Paw Patrol, a Nickelodeon show that is popular among preschoolers, screaming in a car. The vehicle hurtled into a light pole and burst into flames. In the 10-minute clip, Paw Patrol babies pretend to die, parentheses, died by Annabelle hypnotized, some characters died, and one walked off a roof after being hypnotized by a likeness of a doll possessed by a demon. Being the New York Times, they had the resources to actually get in touch with YouTube about this, and their response was nothing short of laughable. Malik Ducard, YouTube's global head of family and learning content, said that the inappropriate videos were the extreme needle in the haystack, but that making the app family friendly is of the utmost importance to us. The extreme needle in the haystack is a funny way of describing channels that were in the top 10 on YouTube in monthly views. It's a funny way to describe hundreds of videos with tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of views. The Times was also able to gather some interesting details about how the production of these videos worked. One intriguing detail was that a large proportion of channels operated in networks, a point we'll tackle in a little bit. The journalist also got some interesting responses from the owner of one of these channels. The account that posted the video seen by Miss Burns' son is named Super Aries TV. Questions sent there were mostly ignored, though the account did reply, "That's a cute character and video is a funny story. Take it easy, that's it." A Super Zeus TV account included a link to a shopping site called superkidshop.com, which is registered in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. A call to the phone number listed in that site's registration records was answered by a man who declined to identify himself. He said that his partners were responsible for the videos and that a team of about 100 people worked on them. He said he would forward email requests for comment to them. Those emails went unanswered. Other mothers complained that, seeing as YouTube Kids is a children's platform, there should be people whose sole job it is to clean this stuff up, and enough of those employees for moderation to be done competently. If you build an application specifically for children's entertainment, where you're brazen enough to allow anyone to upload anything, you should be able to ensure to a reasonable degree that the content on it will be suitable for children, or at least not completely unsuitable. It brings up the point that YouTube shouldn't have gotten into this business and marketed their platform to parents of toddlers if they didn't have the resources to moderate it appropriately inappropriately. As November progressed, more and more influential people started talking about Elsagate. We would see YouTubers like Mutahar from Some Ordinary Gamers and Philip DeFranco cover it.
Where, as you can see, the officer is about to shoot the fucking baby Elsa with a Glock. God bless today's fucking world, ladies and gentlemen. Holy shit. Baby gets sick. Daddy crying for his... I don't think Daddy's gonna cry. I think Daddy's about to beat the shit out of these two for breaking the iPad, or at least that's the vibe I'm getting from the studio.
This is from Zin Zin Cartoon, titled Minions Banana Baby Drinks Piss Water. Funny story, full episodes. Finger Family Song Nursery. Also, you'll notice a lot of the titles, the descriptions, the tags, it's kind of like this word soup. Once again, that's people taking advantage of the algorithm by using highly searched terms in their description. And there's a full disgusting rainbow of obscene and really inappropriate videos. There's a lot of tricking people into drinking pee, eating poop. You get stuff like Princess Rapunzel and Spider-Man buried alive, Venom poop, and you see what looks to be a bloodied Rapunzel with poop on her head.
Dan Olson of Folding Ideas released a particularly insightful video at the time, explaining the probable origin of the animation and CG segment of the market. Studios in India that used to pump out cheap nursery rhyme DVDs in the 90s, who had now made the jump to the internet, using their same industrial process with new characters and edgier themes, the latter of which somehow got folded in along the way. Olson also pointed out that some of these channels were part of a larger conglomerate, and that, along with stuffing every keyword imaginable into their titles, they were exploiting the algorithm by pushing the same videos out on dozens of different channels, giving the illusion of content diversity.
There are 58 channels attached to that MCN, almost all of them posting nearly identical content based off the same source library. Everything about it screams minimal human interaction. The strategy here is to cast a very wide net with the illusion of diversity. A single channel uploading dozens of videos per day will quickly trip YouTube's spam alarms, but a network of dozens of channels uploading one video each per day won't. YouTube's search algorithms and recommended videos try to give you content that's just like whatever you just watched, but they're also designed to force a bit of variety to prevent a single channel from totally dominating a given genre. The distributed spam technique works around this, meaning the algorithm can deliver diverse results from many different channels while actually delivering results that all point back to the same core entity. But that's not actually even the end of the story. You might notice that I've stripped the audio entirely from all the examples that I've used here, and there's a good reason for that. So here's an interesting experiment that I've already done for you. Re-upload a bunch of these videos and watch the copyright claims come rolling in. I uploaded 5 videos to a burner channel and within half an hour had 32 copyright claims, all of which had the attached policy of a global block. One video in particular got hit with 13 separate claims.
Tabloid, a French-Canadian media organization, published a video concerning Toy Monster, another channel along the lines of Webs and Tiaras. The creators of the videos, located in the southern region of Quebec City, were approached by Tabloid for an interview but declined. However, an actor from the channel's cast came forward anonymously and mentioned that contractual obligations prevented him from providing any comments. Much like with the animations, the investigation uncovered that many channels were all seemingly managed by the same individuals and were posting identical content. Even celebrities would chip into the discussion, such as Bob of all people from, you know, the Hayley Williams song, meme or whatever with Mordecai. You know what I'm talking about, okay? As well as Joe Rogan.
And like this scene keeps happening over and over again where they have beer, they get fucked up, and then as the baby falls, the beer bottle bounces off his head and shatters and lands on the ground and the baby's bleeding. It happens over and over again. And so in this one with the minions, the little baby minions, they fall, bam, gets cut in the head. It's the same scene. Here's the Mickey Mouse one. Little babies get fucked up, they fall, beer bottle hits the baby in the head. There's another one with little foxes. They get fucked up, beer bottle hits the kid in the head. It's always the same shit.
A large contributor to the growing public awareness was a Medium article written by James Bridle. Bridle's article provides a comprehensive review of the various types of Elsagate content, illustrating how they deteriorate from slightly peculiar yet harmless videos like surprise egg unboxings and automated keyword spam nursery rhymes to the more disturbing examples we went over before. Additionally, Bridle draws attention to a channel with over 8 million subscribers called Toy Freaks, a channel like many others where parents use their children for content. However, what sets Toy Freaks apart was the type of behavior that the father, Greg Chisholm, was enacting on his daughters. In Bridal's words, as well as nursery rhymes and learning colors, Toy Freaks specializes in gross-out situations, as well as activities which many viewers feel border on abuse and exploitation, if not cross the line entirely, including videos of the children vomiting and in pain. In other videos, the girls were made to act like babies when they were much older, dressed with pigtails and pacifiers in their mouths, with the videos being tagged with terms like bad baby, which had appeared in other ElsaGate content. There were even examples of Chisholm throwing objects at his daughters. This showed that unfortunately, ElsaGate and YouTube's failure to moderate their platform wasn't just about content for children, but of children, which brings me to another problem.